We're back for another episode of the Bad Ideas podcast with Gil Kfir. How'd I do?
Well, really well.
All right, close. So you're managing director of a mirror group. Can you tell us what that does?
So a mirror is helping organizations and group work better together. We're an organizational development firm that help people communicate better, solve conflicts, and bring emotional intelligence related skills into the workplace.
Kind of relevant.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Emotional intelligence related skills. Yeah, that's what I was.
Interesting. How long have you guys been in business?
So my father was doing it in the last 40 years almost. I've been, doing it. That was my child labor. So I was 12 doing it without getting paid. But in the last 2 years, 2 or 3 years, I've been getting paid for that.
Yeah. And what kind of companies do you work with?
All over, all around the sectors of high-tech industry. We mainly work with an organization called YPO, which is Young President Organization, a network of executives that we help facilitate their peer group conversation and then facilitate the conversations among their families and businesses.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Great network to be into. So you're running the team now, right? You're managing director, so it's your shop.
Mm-hmm.
How big's the staff?
It's currently 4 people, including me.
Yeah. There you go. All right. So people have like a 25% chance of getting to work with you if they call you guys up, or bigger than that?
Nah, a bit bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
We want people.
That's awesome. And what part of the world? You're calling from Tel Aviv, right?
Tel Aviv, Israel, right now. Yeah.
How are things going?
Interesting, fluctuating, moving around. Now we're waiting to see if there's the government will reply to the attack of the Iranian that we've been waiting for, which hope will not carry us for another round of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for reference, we're recording this on April 16th, because it will probably air like a month or two out. But April 16th, the attack was a couple days ago, right?
Yeah, 3 days ago at the night between Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. Just a kind of crazy time all around the world to kind of, hear what we're hearing here and then talk to people who are in Tel Aviv that say something totally different. And I wonder, you teach emotional intelligence to businesses. Do you ever wonder what conversations look like at the governmental level? And if you could sit down with these people and be like, okay, what are we doing?
Yeah. Basically, the methodology we use to facilitate conversations, it's called non-flict, which is turning a conflict into something that's constructive. And it was created by my father from facilitating conversation between Palestinians and Israelis. It didn't work well till that point, but we're still working on it.
Yeah.
And yes,
what a calling.
Yeah, it was the origins of it, but I would love to see our leaders using it. They're not really into that now, I think.
Yeah, well, there's motivation. I think the beauty of this age we live in is that you and I can record a show across the ocean while all this stuff is happening, which means good information can get to the right people pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And folks keep hearing from people like you, they'll understand, what's going on. And, my hope is that most people on both sides don't want any part in what's happening. So just got to find a way to turn up the volume for those folks and turn down the volume for all the people screaming for conflict.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So thanks for sharing, and thanks for shooting with us during all this. This is cool.
Yeah.
So on a sillier note, you've come here to talk about a totally random bad business idea, which we're going to introduce in a second. We're going to talk about why it's such a horrible idea until we run out of bad stuff to say, and then try to turn it into something good. Does that sound good?
I love this. It's a great idea. Also, great practice how to turn every piece of shit into gold.
Yeah. Well, this will be interesting. I find it a fun exercise to look for the good in something, and I think particularly with business, like a lot of people fall in love with their ideas. I always wanted to be an idea guy when I was a kid, and In reality, like regardless of how good your idea is, it doesn't go anywhere unless you have good people behind it and good process to bring it to life. So I
Yeah.
think our mission is to tear this stuff down, introduce good process, and see what we find.
Mm-hmm.
So without further ado, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm curious to see what's coming up.
All right, let's take a look. So our bad idea today is a leftover swap app. Tired of eating your own cooking? Swap your leftovers with strangers in your area. It's like a potluck, but with more suspense and questionable food safety standards.
Ew.
what, what comes to mind?
Wait, so the business suggests for me to switch my leftovers with someone else's leftovers.
Yeah, I mean, it's saying it's an app. It almost sounds like ride sharing, but for leftovers. It's not Uber. It's like, someone's leftovers you can
Wow.
get somehow for a fee
Okay,
on the
and
app.
help like reduce food waste and support the sustainable development goals and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely eliminates waste. Um, I mean, my mind is immediately splitting in two. I'm thinking um, leftover pizza, people probably wouldn't be super afraid to do. It's still a little sketchy because,
Unless it has pineapple.
oh, come on, pineapple belongs on pizza. I'm a Hawaiian guy. Um, but, I feel like people are generally not skittish about leftover pizza. Um, but something like a pasta, like, could you imagine someone ordering like a half-eaten plate of pasta from someone else?
Depends if
Yeah.
it's spaghetti or if it's like something different, But if it's like ice cream, I think is the one that you the least a bit.
Leftover ice cream. Like a half-eaten tub of ice cream. Um, I don't know. People, when Uber got started, it was like marketed as a luxury experience in the beginning because I think people were skittish about it. But
Mm-hmm.
the whole concept of like heavily vetted drivers showing up in nice cars wearing suits, like that wasn't super alien. And then people pretty quickly got used to getting into someone's, junky car.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder if like, if leftovers were an order of magnitude cheaper, just like Uber was an order of magnitude cheaper than taxi or renting a car, maybe there's something here.
There has to be audience there. Like there has to be a segment in the population that will use it. And also by Uber, it's a good example, but also Airbnb. Like who
Yeah.
would want to sleep on this weirdo's couch? But people
But it
do it.
worked.
Yeah.
But it worked. So, is the next iteration. The only problem is it's perishable. Like, the leftovers, you don't know how old it is. You have no way to quality control. Um, it could be ugly.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick, I think you need to put the mic a little bit down because it's a bit distorting. So
Oh, no.
a bit now. I just felt it a little bit now.
Not
I
again.
was
It's
I
because I'm
said it.
getting excited.
Yeah.
Getting excited talking about food.
Yeah. That's fair.
Um,
Food is exciting.
yeah. If it was just pastries, it could work, right?
Mm. Also, I'm suddenly thinking about pastry with ice cream. That it's all melting and no one wants to piece of it.
Yeah.
But if it's like, for the people who live in the street or to support poverty and stuff, if I'm already jumping to the good aspect of it and it's too fast, so tell me, but it like there are many people that don't have food and they would go with leftovers, right? But they might not have the phone and the app and the Apple Pay to facilitate this whole thing.
But I think there's a lot of programs to make sure that everybody has a phone, so the whole population's connected.
Mm.
Here in Florida, you see that a lot. People will be sleeping on the street, but they're using like a Samsung Galaxy 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that it's bad. I think everyone should be connected. We need to be connected as a population. And that's an interesting idea. If you could kind of ship your leftovers to someone who doesn't have any food, instead of throwing it out.
Mm-hmm.
But who pays? Is it like a state funded thing?
Yeah. Some kind of a governmental entity, I think. They need to have an interest there.
So it'll get really expensive really fast.
Yeah. And also, Yeah, all around those, a lot of those impact related ventures are being financed by governmental entities, I think.
Hmm.
If you can prove that you really are saving some something, that it has a financial incentive.
That's super interesting. So imagine like a shelter that's currently sourcing materials. I mean, do you guys have food banks in Tel Aviv?
Not that I know of. No, there has to be. I actually have really close. That's why I always think about like hobos and stuff. But I have really close to my apartment here, which is not a very nice thing to live close to, but it's cool because it's also close to the beach. That like a shelter for people who come to get some food and stuff. So, but
But not the bank. So we have here in the States, we have these food banks where grocery stores will send like surplus or things that are about to go bad that they can't sell, even on clearance.
mm,
And people go volunteer. I've volunteered a couple times to like sort the food and, make sure it gets routed the
mm,
right way. And then the food gets shipped to different shelters around the country. It's basically donated. It's kind of like a write off.
yeah.
Um, but something like that, if shelters are sourcing from places like that and then trying to buy their own supplies, and you open up a stream for leftovers, I mean, there's got to be quite a bit of benefit there, right? You have a lot more food. You don't have to pay for the supply. You just pay for the transport.
I was jumping to the fact that if you gather all the leftovers, it might not be exactly related to what you just said, but if you gather all the leftovers in a way, like you recycle plastic, you can recreate something else out of it, and that will be your resources for the next creation.
The ingredients, so you recook the food.
Yeah, and then you deconstruct the pasta back to its initial substances, and you create something else out of it, and then
That seems like kind of a bad idea. So,
uh,
how do you label the pasta? This was previously like eaten or partially eaten by somebody else before it was cooked for you,
it was
but
partially
it's
eaten
sterile.
by the King of Britain, and it's something
Yeah,
that was very well recognized.
yeah, yeah. I worked with a guy he was building an app that allowed folks to purchase famous people's clothes. Um, it was sponsored by a fairly famous basketball player, and um, a lot of famous athletes in the States are really into fashion, but they'll buy something and wear it like once or not wear it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they want to get rid of it, but there isn't really a marketplace for that sort of thing. And like they'd sell this stuff for very, very, very high margin, but the people are kind of buying the fame or the story. They're not really buying the product.
Yeah,
I don't feel like that translates to perishable food. I think that's why this is a bad idea because this stuff goes bad, literally.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
gets like yeah. But also the NFT scene was all based around that. The secondary market in the NFT was all based around the value coming from who held it. But
Mm.
yeah, in the food industry, it will be difficult to sell you.
Leftovers or secondhand.
Yeah.
Um, but I wonder though, is there, so flip into good idea concept, is there a category that makes this work? Because I'm thinking things like cookies, because as long as there's some sort of clever way to sterilize everything, so like, who is holding the food that you're about to eat.
Mm-hmm.
You think about, you go to like a bakery or something, you don't know who's held the cookies before you buy them. You
No.
assume that because of health code that they're clean, but you don't really know if it's 10 people or someone put them back. Like, you just kind of trust. So
Yeah.
does that carry over?
And usually all my friends and me, when I was working in restaurants and stuff, and you get into the inside of the kitchen, you usually know how it looks, and you're like, okay, I'm not gonna eat in this place anymore. Never mind.
Yeah.
I've seen the inside of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Uh,
people eat out all the time. I think they just don't see it. So
mm-hmm.
is this one of those things where if you list food that at least looks like it was fresh, or at least stays fresh a little longer, is that something that turns into some kind of viable business?
You know those boxes? I've heard about those boxes also to reduce food waste that you put, because the expiration date is usually a fiction. Like they put on the milk
Hmm.
the expiration date. It's not really. the exact expiration date of the product. It's just to make sure they have a nice recurring revenue, and then they put the stuff inside of like a glass box, and when it recognizes the chemicals in the food, and when it really expires, it changes the color, and then you don't care about the expiration date. You only throw it away when it's really needed.
Yeah.
That's
Pretty bad.
technology that we can use in our business on that food waste, maybe.
Technology to prevent food from expiring or track when it expires.
Yeah, track when it expires, and then you can extend the time that you use it, and you can prove your audience that it's just leftovers, but it's not expired, it's not rotten. Like, you can still have it.
All right. So now you're getting into operations. So we're talking about extending the life of the food. Is this more of like a curation business than just a reseller business where, you know, you get some kind of money to deposit the food? So it's a marketplace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where there's cars. So here in Florida, they have this business called Circuit that works for the state that's constantly driving around. It's basically like free Uber and golf carts. So you call it just like an Uber, and a golf cart shows up and takes you where you want to go, which is great. But those drivers are just constantly on patrol, like they're full-time staffed, unlike gig economy.
Mm-hmm.
So you could kind of partner with someone like them. So if people listed their leftovers on the app and you wanted something, or they listed something that was fresh enough, and you wanted that, they could go and pick it up for some kind of marginal fee. Maybe they pay like 15% of what they think the resale value would be.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a center that curates the food and, and resells it, so they can pick up, curate, and deliver. So you have this little revolving wheel of leftovers.
And they're already there. Like, they're in this shift anyway. So you just enable them to earn more for the same time, like, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of a no-brainer partner.
Mm-hmm.
The tricky part is what you were talking about. How do you make sure that the food is in good shape? And how do you ship it back out to willing buyers fast enough to make it successful?
It's just like you sell something online in a secondary marketplace, then you need to put a tag on it that shows what's condition. Is it as new, not as new? And then you can say
Partially used food.
Yeah, and then you'll divide the population. So if you're really in need, then your standards will be lower, and you can have something that's more used, more partially eating, and more ice creamy vibe. But if you're like, you have some higher standards, but you just want to contribute to the effort, then you can get something in a better shape. But what's your incentive? Like, those that bring their leftovers will get a fee for something. And for me as the buyer, it's just a cheaper food. That's my incentive.
Yeah, it's cheaper. I mean, it'd have to be more available, right? Because you can't store leftovers for that long. Like, you have to ship them out within a day or so of getting them, if that. So the promise needs to be that you can get food from this thing faster than you can get it from like a Uber Eats or something made to order, or way cheaper.
Yeah, way cheaper also. When I was a little kid, we were skateboarding, and we knew that at the end of the skateboarding day, there was this bakery that they would just, they finished the day, they didn't sell all the baguettes, and we went there and we're like, oh, do you have anything left? And we were just having all their pizzas, and they just gave it to us. So, or on really cheap price. So I think what I'm saying is that, yeah, price is a good way to move people
Motivator.
getting that, and also, yeah, different parts of the population can have it. So
yeah. So maybe that's the angle. It's cheaper access to potentially good food. I mean, maybe it starts like Uber. It's only accessible for like really, really expensive high-end pastries. So it's like pastries that are not eaten or still in the box or something go into this app and you can buy them. And there's like a sealed box guarantee or something, but it's still significantly cheaper because it's resold.
Yeah.
That could be a business.
That's definitely a business. That's definitely, like, they're already doing it. The bakery that my mom's loves to go buy stuff there, she goes afternoon because they want to get rid of their supply, and they have 1+1, but they're still getting stuck with some stuff. So you lower the prices more, and you open another marketplace for those app users that they can come where they can order it. Oh, you want
Mhm.
people to stay home and order it because they can also they can also do a takeaway.
Mhm.
Interesting. I
Then
love how
yeah, I
you
mean,
brainstorm from something and from stupid, it suddenly, oh, there
it's
is a
interesting.
potential actually in the,
It's interesting.
yeah.
I mean, you also have some experience. We didn't talk about it yet, but you have some experience in the crypto space. Um, I'm wondering if that's going to find its way into peer-to-peer transactions in the near future, because I feel like it's ready made for it. But who's like, why are we waiting so long?
Mm. Wait, we're still on food. You speak about peer-to-peer transaction on food waste, on food
Well,
leftovers.
I mean, food is like the general theme, but like you have a rich background in the crypto space, and that's a general question. Like it's so much faster to transact and so much more secure. How come that hasn't found its way into peer to peer? Like, why isn't there an eBay crypto or like a Uber crypto, something like that, that actually moves the money and the assets immediately?
Ah. Interesting. It's because of that really encrypted blockchain network that it's like it's all embedded in it and everyone can have access to every transaction that enables it to be very safe and very peer to peer.
Mm-hmm.
But
But why aren't these like end to end, peer to peer sales apps adopting it? Why are they still using the big old payment networks? Because you feel like, I mean, imagine you're an Uber driver and you're literally getting paid to your bank account when you drop somebody off, or you're doing our leftover swap app and maybe that's how this gets adopted. You move leftovers and you get paid the second you make the delivery, like the
mm,
money's available in your account.
but still in your
Why
bank
isn't
account. So it,
or your crypto wallet, doesn't
huh?
matter. But it's a transact like a avalanche transaction takes about 3 seconds. So you deliver and immediately the funds are available if you can prove that you delivered.
Yeah.
Why isn't that happening?
It's an interesting connection that you made there. I'm not sure. My time in eToro I was not deeply enough to really grasp the depth of it
Yeah.
and get it. But because in my perspective, I was still thinking that that we're not really going to democratizing it and to peer to peer, because I thought that all those the MetaMask and Binance and the other crypto wallets that you use, so it still acts as a bank in a way. I don't know. I didn't really get the depth of the peer to peer thing, and I felt like it's not really peer to peer in the crypto scene, and it's not gonna get fully democratized as people think, because there's always
Yeah.
gonna be a platform that connects parts.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think that's like Bitcoin is the HTML to the space, right? It's this one like open, ungoverned network that at least for now still lives up to the original thesis. And um, I don't know. I think like all of these wallets are effectively web browsers. It's like Google Chrome doesn't own the internet. The internet owns Chrome. And
Mm.
I think the bigger the space gets, the faster the wallets need to adapt. And I just, coming back to all this, and we can even bring it back to what's going on in Tel Aviv. I think that's the real reason why these peer-to-peer apps don't exist just yet. Because if people realize that you and I could just do business directly with one another, and not have to run through these big networks, a whole lot of control is lost.
Mm.
And the powers that be like to have control. And I think a lot of the stuff we're seeing internationally right now is a lot more about control than anything else, starting with control of attention.
Yeah,
Interesting times.
really, really, and it's also maybe like threatening to destruct the basic foundation of society, which is a one who's being controlled by, maybe for the people and by the people, but it's controlled in a way. Um,
Interesting
yeah,
times.
this is a war
Well,
on
what do you think?
control.
What's the final verdict on leftover food?
When my
Is this
father
the way
built
to?
that non-flict process, they were arguing for a while on what's the root cause of the conflict, of the Palestinian Israeli Palestinian
Yeah.
conflict. And because some say it's because of Jerusalem, it's religious, and most of the times what we've learned is that A lot of the conflicts are on lack of mutual trust and respect, that you don't trust the people. Just the sentence that you just said was in the beginning was around, I believe that most of the people just want to live side by side, and
Uh-huh.
that if that belief will be deeply rooted in them, in really the majority of both population, that's it. You're in a good
Yeah.
position, but it's not there. People are still like not trusting the other side's will for peace, and that's the thing that's stopping
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Do you think media plays a role in that at all?
A lot. There was just a big scandal. I don't know if a scandal, but a big thing around TikTok's role in shaping, like the words. There was this Israeli guy that got fired or quit working at TikTok after he saw their big bias towards pro-Palestinian content rather than pro-Israeli. Not that something is right or wrong, it's just that there was really a clear lack of balance of sides, and the algorithm works in a way that what's more disturbing gets more attention. What's more, and so media shapes. So what we've seen on that Netflix series, really a while ago, a few years ago, around those bubbles that we are being filtered within through our unique accounts and confirmation bias. We see what we want to
Mm-hmm.
see, and yeah, ignorance. We don't know people from the other side, and it's the same polarization that you see in the U.S. between Democrats and Republicans. It's this,
Mm-hmm.
you don't see enough from the other side, and you develop those lack of patience and tolerance for it.
But what's wild, I think what's beautiful, but also wild, is you go to these places, um, and depending on like which bubble you're going, it doesn't really matter which direction you go, right or left. You go to a bubble, and everyone assumes they're like you, and if they like, or you're like them, I guess. And if they like you, they even more assume that you're like them.
Mm.
Because I think deep down there's like this innate longing to just be a part of something. Like I want to be a part of a relationship. I want to be a part of a group. I want to be a part of a tribe, part of a city. But I want to be part of something. And I think underneath all of it, if you put people together with other people and you don't give them any filter over who that person is, they'll find way more in common than not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like when you watch the news or you scroll on Twitter, um, my Twitter feed's all dog photos, just for the record. But if you scroll on Twitter, you scroll on TikTok, whatever, you get this myopic, like tailored view of the world that's designed to make you feel a certain way. But when you go to a coffee shop, it doesn't really matter where in the world you go. You see the same kind of people, like the exact same kind of people, regardless of political or religious affiliation. And I think underneath all of it, you put people side by side. At least I hope this. But you put people side by side without any preconceived notions of the other person, and they're more inclined to like each other than not.
Mm-hmm.
Watching all this from the U.S., that's what I really want to believe, that
Mm-hmm.
the people under each population have no appetite for any kind of conflict. It's more the people at the top that are steering things and controlling the media to make sure that things are steered.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping voices like us can be a little louder, so people know that there's no appetite for this stuff. Let's go just ship some leftovers and feed some people. That's what we want.
And when you look in someone in the eyes, that's where you go back to your understanding that he's just a human, and he has the same need for belonging, for love, for success, for peaceful life. And then you're like, oh, I was putting him on in a box of so many categories. That's why I don't like when people start asking, where are you from? How old are you? What's your... So I'm Gil, I'm 27, I'm Israeli, I'm Jewish, I work at that. And you put so many titles to put you in a box, and that's it. You don't see me as who I am now. You see me as the titles I put on myself. And that helps you. It helps us because the world is like chaotic. So we need to put things in boxes. But when we get attached too much to those boxes, that's where we develop this ignorance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, the only thing that belongs in a box is my leftovers.
That's where I'll put my leftovers, definitely.
That brings us full circle. Well, Gil, thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate this. How do folks get in touch with you or your company if they want to work with you, or learn how to better handle conflict in their lives?
So we're on LinkedIn, and we have our website, amirror.com. So it's amirror.com. And yeah, we're on all social platforms, basically Instagram, Facebook,
TikTok?
TikTok. We just opened TikTok, so it might take us a while to get into that, but yeah.
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 Awesome. We'll get some links out and get this up soon. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Nick, thank you. I just love this concept, and really clever brainstorming and a fun conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise. Talk
Thank
to you
you.
soon.